Today we're tackling the last GoPro I purchased, in what is essentially part 2 of my GoPro saga. It's yet another water damaged unit. A lot of these show up for sale online, which tells me these action cameras are more prone to liquid damage than you'd expect. Just because it says it's water resistant doesn't mean it's waterproof, as we shall soon see. In the last video I managed to get one of the two GoPro Hero 10s working, that being the parts unit that was originally intended for the partially working unit. Seeing as though I managed to get a completely dead liquid damaged unit working, I'm going in with more confidence on this Hero 5, which I bought at the same time. It's partially working, as in it powers on, albeit for only a few seconds. The camera displays an image, but the touchscreen isn't responding and the buttons don't do anything. It's missing the cover door for the USB-C and HDMI port, which gives us a clue as to where liquid may have gotten in. It powers on as soon as the battery is installed, which is automatically starting a time-lapse most of the time. Let's open it up and see the extent of the damage. The outer camera lens needs to be removed first. On the older models, it's very difficult to remove, requiring channel lock pliers to get the leverage needed. Twisting it off, we can see a white, salty residue. The O-ring is located around the inner circle, so while it doesn't look great, this isn't the source of our liquid ingress. The front panel is clipped into place, with only a small amount of adhesive around the GoPro logo. Working my pick around the perimeter, I can unclip the faceplate. Once free, you can see how it's attached. Underneath is quite a bit of sand and other residue. There's still 6 screws keeping us out of the internals. Again, working my pick around the perimeter, freeing the rubber gasket. Lifting the internals out of the rear case. It's still connected with 4 cables, which will disconnect shortly. That bright blue line is the gasket that's supposed to stop liquid ingress. But there's no gasket or adhesive surrounding the ports, so if the port cover is missing or is not secured correctly, liquid will enter. Most phones have a small amount of adhesive around their charge ports to prevent just this situation, making them water resistant without the need for port covers. This feels like a missed opportunity, or possibly even classed as a design flaw with this model. Getting the display, button flex and battery cables unplugged, we can begin to see the extent of the damage. There's visible signs of rust on the shielding alone, with significant corrosion to the connectors. The second PCB, which appears to be for the Wi-Fi, has also corroded quite badly. It's not looking great, yet somehow it's still partially working, which is surprising. I'm going to get the unit disassembled further for a proper inspection and clean. One of the 2 screws securing the charge port in place was frozen solid. I genuinely thought the screw head would round off before it came loose. Access to the components is actually easier than that of the GoPro Hero 10 series, as the internals are located on a separate plate rather than being in a recessed shell. Once all the cables and screws are removed, the motherboard can be lifted out of place. There's even more rust on the bottom of this board. I'm going to say it again, it's a miracle this works at all. The battery cage needs to be removed next. The 2 screws at the bottom give me hope that it will come out easily. However, these screws aren't securing it at all. It's glued into place. Unfortunately, all of this liquid hasn't loosened the adhesive for us. This cage needs to be slid to the right just enough to clear these screw standoffs in the frame. I needed to pry it free while staying well clear of the flex cables running beside it. Eventually, I was able to wiggle it free and lift it out. This allows us access to the buttons and Wi-Fi board, which can be removed for cleaning. I wasn't able to remove the buttons as they've been plastic welded onto the frame, meaning if you damage them, replacement would require creating new mounting tabs or gluing them into place. With that, I think it's time to see what's under that rusty shield on the motherboard. Thankfully, it's not soldered into place like many shields of this type. Lifting all the tabs, it comes free of the board, revealing a surprisingly clean motherboard. Still, I'm going to place each board into a container of isopropyl alcohol, which can be partially submerged in water in my ultrasonic cleaner. This prevents the need to fill the whole ultrasonic with IPA. If you saw last week's video, you'll know this ultrasonic cleaner wasn't working. I was correct in my hypothesis that a capacitor was at fault. One had blown its metal can clean off. With a little off-camera fix, it's working again. 15 minutes later, we can take them out and see how they've cleaned up under a microscope, after first cleaning off any residual liquid. Under the scope, we can see the real extent of the damage. Connectors always attract corrosion. Not only does moisture get trapped, but electricity causes an accelerated reaction. As this device was exposed to salt water, the damage is far greater. Just looking at the LCD connector, you can see where the higher voltage lines for the backlight are because they're the worst affected. The ultrasonic alone wasn't enough to remove it. A soft brush will help, but with more stubborn corrosion, my newly acquired fiberglass scratch pen will be of most benefit. It will slowly polish up the pins and remove the corrosion, making them look almost like new again. I'll repeat this process for the other connector, which is responsible for the buttons. The pins towards the end of the board also look dicey, so I reflowed them. I have a feeling the pads might be somewhat corroded away, but we'll try our luck. But we can't just clean up the connectors without cleaning up the plugs that connect onto them, because they're just as corroded. I did my best to clean up the rest of the case and buttons, but as they're plastic welded into place, cleaning was made more difficult. Now let's get the GoPro reassembled enough for a test. Thankfully, it goes back together easier than it came apart. With the display and battery cage connected, it's time to install a battery. At first, nothing appeared to happen. I connected a charger, but the screen's still not lighting up. Flipping it over, I can see the back screen is working. I fiddled with the connector and it sprung to life. I couldn't find out how to change the screen brightness, so bear with me. But the touchscreen is now working, along with the power button. But I'm still having issues with the record button, which suggests the pads around the connector are indeed corroded away. It's an improvement, but it's not perfect. I was about to shut off the unit to attempt a repair to the record button when I noticed a small stream of smoke appear from the LCD connector. I was quick to disconnect the battery, but once the magic smoke is out, it's really hard to get back in. Opening it up, I can see it's tarnished those same pins again on the LCD connector, so there's likely a short somewhere. I did manage to get the display working briefly again after this, so the backlight circuitry is still working, thankfully. And the camera still records, if you can get the record button to do what it's supposed to do. But with no accessible schematics, and this being a multi-layer board, I can't see where many of the traces from the connectors are going, so I'm kinda stuck. Water-damaged electronics tend to go one way or the other. They either work with a bit of a clean, or end up with an endless rabbit hole of issues. Last week, for example, I was able to repair a mini TV that had been left outside for a number of years. It too had rust, but with much larger components, it was simple to repair the individual board components. I've had success in cleaning liquid-damaged devices, like what we've done here today, but it's always hit or miss. The damage caused is always unpredictable. Despite being somewhat functional, we haven't been able to make it fully working in the end. Yet, the dead Hero 10 I had in my last GoPro video ended up fully working after nothing more than a clean. My advice to anyone looking to get into repair is to avoid buying liquid-damaged devices with the intent of making them fully working again. While you can salvage parts from them, you don't want to be reusing corroded parts, especially LCDs, because you can short them out and damage a repairable device by using those faulty parts. I like having a go, but I was unsuccessful in this case. I'm sure someone out there is thinking, well, I could have fixed this. Well, for 25 Australian dollars, you can have a go at this one, and I'll throw in another broken GoPro Hero 10 from the previous video. They're up on the store for anyone that wants to have a go, or just use their parts. I'd also like to move on my iPhone 17, so if you're looking for a new phone and want to save hundreds of dollars, here's your chance. I'll leave a link down in the description. And on that note, this has been a Hugh Jeffries video. Check out the restoration playlist for some successful repairs. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.